Welcome to lesson number 10 of Mastering Positional Techniques. Thanks for all your support under these videos, and today we'll be going over along the diagonals topic, and we'll start with the first concept, attacking on the long diagonal. And this often, if not always, involves the opposite colored bishops. So in this case, we're watching from white side. Smyslov was playing against Lasker, and he decided to use this bishop on d2 on this long diagonal. But right now this bishop has an opponent, so Smyslov tries to eliminate it. He plays knight d6. His idea is simple. He wants to get opposite colored bishops and then to use this bishop activity on this long diagonal. This bishop is not going anywhere because pawn on e3 is blocking the way and any activity that bishop might have. So black took the knight, took the bishop back, they went for b3, sacrificing the pawn, and now the position totally collapsed. A takes b3, queen e6, trying to get the queens off the board, but of course when you have these types of positions with opposite colored bishops, guys, they're not throwish unless it's an endgame where, yeah, most of the time the game's finished in a draw, but queens are still on the board. And in this specific case, we can use the vulnerability of this king on g8 and the weak dark squares. So queen goes to b4, and for bishop c6, bishop c3, white got a strong advantage and ended up winning this chess game. Now let's take a look at the next position. Right now it's the case where our bishop on b2 is actually blocked by our own pawn on e5, and that's where we gotta act slightly tricky and try to actually get this diagonal open. So Taimanov played bishop takes e4, and after bishop e4, it looks like this bishop is actually very active, and I totally agree with you, but here white have some tricks in their sleeve. They go rook d1, and after rook d7, rook d6, sacrificing the pawn. And after rook d6, e takes d6, this bishop will be opened and it will be a lot of trouble. So black decided to go for bishop b7, and after h4, white took a huge initiative. Now let's get to the next concept of this video. The second concept is the Reti Battery. Queen is on a1, a8, bishop on b2, b7. If you ever watch Hikaru's streams when he plays Bullet or Blitz entitled Tuesday, you would often see this setup from him. And this setup is simple. So here Reti was playing against Yates, and he plays rook c2, trying to bring his queen to a1 and create some activity on this long diagonal. Bishop d7, queen a1, knight g6 protecting the pawn, rook c1, doubling the rooks on c-file, bishop c6, knight f1, trying to go knight e3, maybe knight f5, put some pressure on this bishop on d6, after king d7, knight f3, h6, d4, black played d4, and after knight e5, white got a huge advantage. Now let's take a look at the gameplay between Karpov and Kasparov in one of the World Championship matches. Again, I'm not sure what exactly was played on the board. Looks like, yeah, again, some ready setup. So, and the same plan here for black pieces as well. Kasparov played rook c5, and after a4, queen a8, trying to put some pressure on these pieces on a8, h1 diagonal. Knight goes to e1, rook f5, takes, and after f3, h5, knight g2, rook c5, players soon agreed to draw, but this doesn't matter. I'm just trying to show you what the Reti Battery is, and in some cases, you know, it might be very dangerous from both sides. Now let's get to the next concept. We just looked at so-called Reti Battery. Now let's take a look at the Smyslov Battery, and it's slightly different. Basically, as we saw in the previous example, queen is on a1, b2, and in this case, bishop would be on c3 and b2. So we kind of moved the pieces one square diagonally, and let's take a look at the following game. Bishop goes to c3, rook d8, queen b2, and again there are multiple plans. One of them is b4, one of them is of course putting pressure on this long diagonal, knight c5, bishop d4, takes takes, queen c7, b4 takes takes, knight goes to d7, trade c5, knight is going to c4 as well, queen b8, knight c4, bishop e4, bishop h3, avoiding bishop trade and trying to play knight d2 and chase this bishop down on the board. Let's take a look from the black side. Sherbakov was playing against Malutin. And once again from black, bishop c6, queen b7, targeting the e4 pawn. Black got the initiative. Now let's get to the next concept of this lesson. The Lasker formation is referred to bishop on d6 and queen on e7. And most of the time, those types of positions would occur after first d4, or let's say after first knight f3. And usually queen on e7, bishop d6, make sure that you either try to push something in the center, let's say e6, e5 or c6, e5, or you take control over f8, a3 squares, like in the following example, queen goes to e7, and now white don't have any plans with a3, b4 right now, because after a3, black will simply take the pawn, and in this specific case, after rook f d1, this bishop decided to trade this one off the board, despite it being slightly better than its opposition on b2. In the following case, e5 and c5 didn't work out, so black decided to trade the bishop off the board. In the following example, once again, black have the same idea. They went for queen f7, putting all control on this long diagonal. a3 can't be played, rook goes to c2, and after a5, as you might see, I highlighted that a3 is not possible. We're trying to go a4 and create counterplay on the queen side. We move on to the next concept of this lesson. Bishops are not the only pieces that can be active on the long diagonals. In the following case, we don't have any bishops, but we don't need them, and we are looking at so-called Rubinstein's maneuver, queen d8, b8, and a7. In the following game, Rubinstein played queen d8, trying to get his queen slightly more active. White played queen g4, blocking this queen g5 maneuver, and now Rubinstein performed queen b8. He is trying to get his queen active. This queen is not doing anything. While we have active rooks on f-file, we are also trying to activate our queen, of course. King g2, queen a7, rook f, e1, and queen c5, black got the initiative. In the following example, once again, the king is now, we have the board full of pieces, we have two bishops, but we also have a very weak a7, g1 diagonal. So Judith Polgar performed so-called Rubinstein maneuver against very strong grandmaster Alexei Shirov. Queen c2, bishop e3, bishop f2, queen a7, and now queen is a bit annoying. Black are actually not worse, and you know, they're slowly taking the initiative in this game. f4, it takes f4, rook e1, queen c5 attacking the pawn on a3, queen c1 protecting it, now queen d4, rook f4, rook a e8, and black, I would say, are slightly more active in this position. Now let's get to the preliminary concept of this video. Boleslavsky regrouping. Just take a look at this position. What do you think is wrong with the black side? And most of you would probably mention that bishop is on f6 for some reason instead of knight, and bishop on f6 is not doing anything. And you are correct, because bishop on f6 is actually very bad placed. So the Boleslavsky regrouping is referred to the maneuver bishop e7, bishop d6, and knight f6. And again, it's most likely to happen in your games in Queen's Gambit, in Queen's Gambit structure specifically. So Geller was playing against Mikhail Tal, played bishop e7, d5, bishop goes to a3, trying to get the rook on a bad square, which is c2, not letting this queen now go to a4, bishop goes to d6, and now it's very good placed. Castle, knight f6, takes, knight a4, knight a4, knight e5, and after queen e8, f3, c5, both sides got a lot of complications. The game ended in a draw. Now let's take a look at this example, and once again you have the same type of setup. Bishop on f6, knight on d7, and once again it's kinda wrong. So bishop e7 was played by Paroi. Rook fb1, again pawn minority attack on the queen side, we don't care. Knight f6, b4, bishop d6, and we are trying to go knight g4. All the pieces right now are concentrated on the queen side, so it makes a lot of sense for black to play on the king side. Rook potentially go to e6, knight g4, queen g5, and after h3, knight e4, and knight c5, queen g5, black actually got a lot of activity. Now the whole king side is like, oh, scary, scary, and it is scary. Knight e4, d takes e4, bishop e4, bishop h3, and the position is around equal. Let's get to the final concept of this lesson. The last one is opposite colored bishops and attacking f7, f2, even in the endgame. Believe me, there is nothing worse than losing, let's say, this type of position specifically. I remember, I can look up one of my games. I think I played in one of the European chess championships, and I got exactly around the same type of position, but of course white were slightly more advanced at that point, and I ended up losing the game. But when you know it's kind of holdable, it's still, you know, opposite color bishops aren't that easy. If we remove rooks off the board, that's a dead draw. We put rooks on the board, and with this f7 pawn weakness, we can't really get. If our rook was on f6 and we had pawn on g6, yeah, then probably I would say maybe we're safe. But rook on f8, it's in a very, you know, passive spot, but it's still a draw here. The plan for white though is to try to advance their pawn and get their pawn to g6 so that h pawn is, let's say h pawn is not there, g6, and this pawn is pinned, take on f7, rook d5, rook h5, check. So black go g6, g4, h6, h4, g5, we're blocking all the way, king g3. King g7, f4 takes, and we kind of got a dream position for black. It's impossible to get a progress here. The plan is rook e8, rook e7, and black should make a draw. Now let's take a look at this position, where black decided to go for bishop f3, and after bishop e2, we got the opposite colored bishop endgame, but now black are pressing. And despite this position being absolutely equal, white actually ended up losing this chess game. They went for bishop d5, rook d2, bishop b3, king g7, h3, f5, king h2. They decided to give up this pawn. They were like, I don't want to defend it for so long, but I'm not sure what happens, let's say, if white just simply go g4. I just don't see how, and computer agrees with me, like how black are improving their position. They might play f4, but then king g2. And I don't see the way for black to make progress. Yeah, g5, yes, they're slightly more active, but I think it's a lot better than what white did in the game, because after bishop f2, black took the pawn and eventually ended up winning this game. So there's a lot to think about. I think I showed you, you know, very good examples. Again, if you have any questions in the comments, I'm pretty sure, I mean, some of you have faced these examples and you had troubles defending it. And look, I mean, those examples, of course, didn't show you how to defend certain types of positions, but they just show what sometimes you have to deal with and what you shouldn't do. So if you have any questions, once again, let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next lesson. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.